It was a Tuesday afternoon. The house was still. The baby was finally asleep, and for the first time in hours, I found myself alone in the bathroom. I don't know why I looked. Maybe out of habit, maybe out of disbelief. But I turned to the mirror, and then just as quickly, I turned away. It wasn't me. Or at least, it didn't look like me. The skin on my stomach sagged in places I didn't know could sag. My breasts looked foreign heavier, stretched, almost bruised. My hips had widened, my thighs touched in a way they hadn't before, and my eyes looked like they belonged to someone who hadn't slept in. I remember gripping the sink, trying to breathe. My throat was tight, and this overwhelming shame flooded me. Not sadness, not even disappointment. It was shame. Deep, raw, bone-deep shame. I told myself I had just given birth, that my body had done something miraculous. But that didn't matter in that moment. I felt like a stranger inside my own skin, and from that day on, I started avoiding mirrors. I stopped changing in front of them. I stopped looking up when I washed my hands. I even covered the mirror with a towel once, just so I wouldn't have to catch a glimpse. Because every time I did, I felt like I was failing at healing, failing at being okay, failing at being the kind of mother who's supposed to glow in her postpartum light. But there was no glow, only shadows, only silence, only a woman too ashamed to face herself. And that was just the beginning. If this story resonates with you, comment where you're watching from and what time it is. I used to love mirrors. I'd glance at myself before going out, fixing my lipstick, adjusting a loose strand of hair. There was a time I even smiled at my reflection. I don't know exactly when that changed, but I remember the moment I realized the person staring back wasn't me. It was a few weeks after the birth. I had taken a rare shower long enough to wash my hair, long enough to feel human again. I stepped out, wrapped in a towel, and turned toward the mirror without thinking, and there she was, a woman with hollow cheeks, eyes rimmed red and tired. Her belly was soft and uneven, like melted candle wax. Her breasts, veined, heavy, leaking, felt more like burdens than gifts. There was no shape, no symmetry, no sign of the person I used to be. I froze. I couldn't move. My chest tightened as a quiet panic crept in. Who was this woman? What had I become? I didn't feel beautiful. I didn't feel powerful or miraculous. I felt ruined. And worst of all, I felt guilty for thinking that. I had a healthy baby. I was supposed to be grateful. But all I could do was stare and wonder how I'd ever feel comfortable in my own skin again. I looked down and tightened the towel around me like it could erase the damage. I didn't cry. Not then. I just left the bathroom, turned off the light, and promised myself I'd never look like that again. But the truth is, it wasn't just my body I couldn't face. It was the grief of losing the woman I was before. Every morning became a ritual of avoidance. I would wait until the sun barely peeked through the blinds, the room still cloaked in that soft, forgiving darkness. That was when I dressed. I didn't want to see. I didn't want to feel. I didn't want any harsh light to fall on the new contours of my body. So I moved in silence and shadow, pulling clothes from the floor, from drawers I no longer organized. Anything loose, anything that could hide me. I started wearing layers. Even in the heat, baggy shirts that used to belong to my husband, stretchy pants that I hated but couldn't let go of. I had clothes I used to love, dresses, jeans, blouses that made me feel like myself. I never touched them. They mocked me from the closet, still smelling faintly of a life that felt very far away. Some days, I didn't change at all. I stayed in the same milk-stained tank top, the same sweatpants with holes in the knees, because even that small act, putting on new clothes, meant facing a body I no longer recognized. And it wasn't just physical, it was emotional armor. If I dressed like I was invisible, maybe I wouldn't have to answer questions like, "How are you feeling?" or "Aren't you just loving motherhood?" Because the truth was, I wasn't. I was tired. I was ashamed. And more than anything, I was afraid that this version of me, this hidden, shapeless, dimmed-down version, was permanent. So I kept dressing in the dark, hoping the world wouldn't notice I was disappearing. There was a night, maybe 2 months in, when the baby had finally fallen asleep for more than 2 hours. It felt like a miracle. The house was quiet. The moonlight spilled across our bedroom floor, soft and still. He reached for me, gently, lovingly, and I froze. I wasn't expecting it. I wasn't ready. My body tensed instinctively, like a door slamming shut. He didn't do anything wrong. His touch wasn't forceful, but I couldn't help it. The idea of being seen, really seen under the sheets in my postpartum skin, was terrifying. I didn't want him to feel the softness of my belly, the unfamiliar weight of my breast, the stretch marks that mapped across me like lightning scars. I turned away, murmuring something about being tired. He didn't press. He never did. But I saw the hurt flash across his face before he turned to his side of the bed. That look haunted me, because he wasn't just touching my body. He was trying to reach the woman he knew, his wife, his lover, his partner, but I didn't feel like her anymore. I felt like a stranger, wrapped in insecurity and milk-stained cotton. And the worst part was, I missed him too. I missed being wanted. I missed intimacy, but shame was louder than longing. So night after night, I pretended to sleep. I kept my back turned. I avoided eye contact. I avoided closeness. Because in my mind, love required beauty, and I no longer believed I was beautiful. I didn't know how to let him touch me when I could barely touch myself. It started with small things. I'd open the closet, stare at the clothes I used to wear, and close it just as quickly. But eventually, the closet became more than a storage space. It became a sanctuary, a hiding place, a quiet booth where I could let the truth spill out in silence. I'd sit on the floor, surrounded by shoes I no longer wore, dresses that still smelled like perfume, jeans I couldn't pull past my thighs anymore. I'd pull a sweater over my knees and just cry. No one knew, not my husband, not my mother, not the friends who messaged asking for baby photos. In that tiny, dim corner of the house, I let it all fall apart. It wasn't just about the clothes. It was about the woman I used to be, the one who got dressed up to feel good, who wore red lipstick on Mondays just because. She felt like a ghost now. And every morning, when I stood in front of that closet, I was forced to confront the distance between her and me. There were outfits I kept promising I'd fit into again. I'd hold them against my body. Imagine what it would feel like to zip them back up, to be admired, to feel sexy. But the zipper never moved, and neither did my self-worth. So the closet became the only place I allowed myself to fall apart, to whisper apologies to a body I couldn't accept, to mourn the loss of who I was alone without judgment, in the company of clothes that no longer fit and a version of myself that felt impossibly far away. It took me a long time to understand what was really happening. I thought I was avoiding mirrors. I thought it was just the reflection I couldn't stand. But it was more than that. I was avoiding myself. I stopped journaling. I stopped taking photos. I even stopped video calling people using excuses about the baby or being busy. But the truth was simpler. I didn't want to see myself. I didn't want to hear my own voice. I didn't want to be reminded of the girl I used to be because she felt gone. Motherhood, they said, would change me. But I never imagined it would unravel me this way. I became good at disappearing in plain sight. I smiled when I needed to. I nodded through conversations. I posted pictures of my baby but cropped myself out. Even my laughter changed, softer, less certain, like I was waiting for someone to tell me it was okay to still exist as more than just a mother. Some nights I'd stare at the ceiling, wondering if I'd ever feel like a whole person again. Not just a body that gave birth. Not just a pair of hands always reaching for diapers, bottles, burp cloths. Not just a caretaker, a feeder, a comforter. I missed being someone. I missed being me. And the scariest part was realizing I wasn't sure who me even was anymore. Avoiding the mirror was just the beginning. What I'd really lost was the connection to my own soul. And I didn't know how to find my way back. It was unplanned. I had gone into the bathroom in the middle of the night to check on something, maybe a bottle, Maybe a towel. I don't even remember. What I do remember is forgetting to turn off the overhead light. And there I was, caught in the mirror, fully illuminated, no shadows to hide in. At first, my instinct kicked in. Look away, leave, don't stare. But I didn't move. For the first time in months, I stood still. And I looked, really looked. The stretch marks were still there, like ripples on soft clay. The skin of my stomach, loose and unfamiliar. My breasts, heavier. My shoulders curved with exhaustion. My eyes, red, yes, but also holding something else. Resilience. I saw a woman who had survived sleepless nights, bleeding and healing, isolation, and a woman who had held life in her arms while feeling like she was disappearing from her own. And I started crying. Not the quiet kind I had hidden in closets. This time, it was deep, shaking, open, sobbing. Because for the first time, I wasn't ashamed. I was heartbroken for how cruel I had been to myself. I whispered, "I'm sorry. Sorry for all the disgust. Sorry for the silence. Sorry for believing I was less because I looked different." Because the truth was, I had changed. Yes, but that change wasn't failure. It was a kind of birth, too. That night, I didn't cover the mirror. I stood there until the tears stopped. And when I finally left the bathroom, I left with something I hadn't felt in a long time. A little bit of peace. The mirror didn't change. My body didn't magically go back to what it was before. The stretch marks didn't fade overnight. My clothes didn't suddenly fit again, but something inside me shifted. I began to see myself not just as a mother, but as a woman who endured. A woman who was soft in places she used to be firm, and strong in ways she never imagined. A woman who had broken quietly and rebuilt slowly, piece by piece, in the silence of early mornings and the shadows of sleepless nights. I started speaking to myself differently. I stopped saying, "Look at what you've become," and started whispering, "Look at what you survived." It wasn't easy. It isn't easy. Some days, I still avoid mirrors. Some days, I still tug at shirts to hide the folds I haven't learned to love. But now, when I see my reflection, I also see her. The version of me who held on when everything felt like too much. The version of me who kept showing up for my baby, for my home, for a life I barely recognized anymore. But most importantly, I see the version of me who is learning slowly, painfully, beautifully, to show up for herself again. So if you're watching this and you feel that shame too, if you dress in the dark or cry in the closet, if you can't look in the mirror without grief, I want to tell you something I wish someone had told me. You're not broken, you're becoming. And the woman staring back at you? She's worth facing.